Hello and welcome back to my series on databases. We're going to be having a look at the creation of data flow diagrams today. Data flow diagrams do what it says on the tin. They show how data flows around the system. So if you're creating any system that's got a database in it or any system that has multiple data stores, you should consider using a data flow diagram as part of the write-up for your design to show how that data actually gets around the system and which processes use it and which entities enter that data onto the system. It's really important to note what a data flow diagram is not. It's not meant to have an exhaustive list of everything your system does, all the processes, all the data stores, all the entities. It's not meant to show algorithms or decisions. So you're not meant to have like, yes, go this way, do this thing, no, go that way, do that thing. And it's not meant to be a system flowchart that covers every aspect of your system. It's just how the data flows from the main parts or functions of your system around the system. Let's have a look at the symbols used on data flow diagrams. So first of all, you've got an entity, which is normally external to the system. It's quite often a person. So that would be a user or possibly an admin user, but it could also be another system. So for example, some kind of backup system. Then you've got processes. These processes are not one-to-one mappings of functions in the system. For example, a process might be something like borrowing a book if we were looking at a library system. Now, borrowing a book is likely to call many actual functions on the system, whereas it's just one process, one part of what this does. So you can think of it as like menu options, whatever actually suits the system that you're creating. Then we've got data stores. Data stores are normally tables. Databases are too big and not specific enough. It can also be things like files or cloud storage. And then probably most importantly, we've got the data flows. The arrow shows the direction of the data flow, and then you label up the arrow with the data that is being passed in that direction. If there are multiple items, you would separate them with a comma. For example, book title, comma, author, comma, genre, to pass multiple pieces of data. And then let's have a look at an example for a library system. So this is a very simplified library system. All you can do is log into the system, browse books, and borrow a book. Notice that only 3 tables are shown here on the system: the loans table, the users table, and the books table. But there will be other tables, such as an authors table and such as a genres table, mainly used for lookups. They're not relevant to the data flow, so those are not included. And wherever possible, make sure that you only put the data stores onto this diagram once. If you have to repeat a data store, then use the data store ID to ensure that the 2 IDs of the data stores are the same, so it's clear that it's the same ID. So in this example here, the user wants to borrow a book. So the book, the data for the book, is passed from the user into this process. They'll type in various information, and then this process will pass on the user ID, the book ID, and then the date it's borrowed, the date it's due, to the loans table, so that that loan can be logged onto the loans table. Secondly, let's just have a look at one slightly more complicated example. If you've got multiple entities, it can be very helpful to color code your data flow diagram. So in this example, I've color coded the administrator because they are a separate entity. Now, the administrator can add new books to the system, which is something normal users can't do. However, they will write to the books table, and I've left the color of the books table as its primary color. And by that, I mean that the main use of the books table will be for users to browse books and borrow books. So I've left it colored in that particular color. You'd also note that there's no data on the data flow arrow from the administrator into add new book. It might be that that needs to be labeled up with book as per here where the user is borrowing a book, but it's perfectly acceptable if an entity is initiating a process that the arrow simply doesn't have any data on it because the information is they've initiated that process. Thank you ever so much for watching, and see you next time.